Are you ready for some smart, plain talk on politics, Israel, and the law? It's the Andrew Parker Show. Let's roll. This is part 2 of our special multi-episode conversation on the Andrew Parker Show. Thank you very much for joining us. In this episode, we examine technology, online influence, political radicalization, and America's evolving political divide. I wanted to talk about technology for a minute. I have talked on previous shows about the wonderful degree. I mean, I really did enjoy it. It taught me a lot that I received the master's program at the Hubert Humphrey Institute of Public Affairs here in the Twin Cities. I did this as a joint program along with my law school studies. It took me an extra year, but I received a JD degree and a master's degree. And that master's degree in policy management, something like that, I don't recall what it was called, public policy management, caused me to study a number of public policy, social policy issues and ways in which programs can be delivered by the government. One of the courses that I took, taught by a man named Don Giesemann, who has since passed away, who was a nuclear physicist at the Livermore nuclear facility I think it was in Los Alamos. He was a very interesting fellow. He worked as I say, his entire life as a nuclear physicist on nuclear energy and military nuclear weaponry. He was in a top secret group, et cetera, and he didn't talk much about that, of course, as he couldn't. But he did talk about technology, of course, with this technology policy course he was teaching, and the dangers of technology. And this was in the 1980s, in the mid-1980s. He was so many years ahead of his time. People were excited at the time about technology and the boom of technology and the shift in technology. Computers were just coming online for, general population use. And of course, the web and, all the online activity that we now see was a distant, not yet on the radar system. But he talked about the abuse of technology that could arise and the dangers of it. Of course, he was front and center with nuclear technology and the dangers of that, particularly if it falls into the wrong hands. So it was an interesting course. I remember he talked about grocery stores. I think he spent 3 sessions talking about grocery stores and the technology of food in our country, and the fact that it didn't used to be this way. It was mainly mom and pop grocery stores, but they were bought up, and in different regions, different states, it became much more of the large chain in different regions of the country. And in order to continue to expand, more and more products were put on the shelf to the point where these stores became enormous. They weren't mom and pop, walk in, you got 3 aisles, you go pick out, you got 1 or 2 items of each different type of product. It was 50 different coffees in, the coffee aisle. And it would go on and on and on like that. So he was talking about the impact of that on social fabric. And if he were here today, I dare say that he would be talking about the online activity, how it is being used, and how it is undermining the fundamental values of this American experiment, how it is undermining the moral fabric of our society, how it is so gravely affecting the malleable minds of our youth, of our kids. From single-digit ages into the teen years, into college years. And the impact that it has on the thinking of our kids, on the next generation and generation after that. And boy, if you sit and think about it, how dangerous is that? More dangerous than anything else we've been talking about. And we are seeing it. When an October 7th happens and kids are marching on campuses and they're being convinced one way or another that the October 7 attacks weren't so bad, maybe we support them. Maybe it's Hamas who's good and Israel who's bad. And people sit and they wonder, geez, that sounds so topsy-turvy. How do they ever get to that conclusion? And how's it so widespread across the entire country? And not just one or two one-offs, but many, many, to the point of thousands of people believing this. Well, that is the abuse of technology. This tool that we have created, used by the wicked to further their own interests, whether they be the Chinese, the communists, the Communist Party in China, whether it be a Putin-like KGB infiltrating, whether it be a radical Islamist group, whether it be using their money to infiltrate through this wicked use of by the wicked system, to maybe it's Qatar spending billions, tens of billions at U.S. universities across this country to buy our kids' minds. This is dangerous, the most dangerous. Whether it's Zoran Mamdani abusing the online use for his own wicked ideology. Wicked, I say, because it's anti-Semitic. Wicked, I say, because it undermines greatness here in the United States. Or whether it's Hassan Piker using it to influence millions who follow him. Remember, when David Duke tried to get his nose under the Republican tent, he was run out of the party, never to be heard from again. The Democratic Party has not done that. They do not do that. Instead, they are using the online tool, the technology tool, for their own power and authority, regardless of moral compass, in order to prop up candidates that I would argue, and it's not a policy argument, that I would argue propagate wicked and evil ideas to undermine the social fabric of this country. Now, people say on the left and within the Democratic Party in the middle, and the entire party, in fact, argue that it's Donald Trump that is the evil, wicked one. And how dare you say otherwise? Look at what he has done. Executive order this, policy that. These are policy disagreements. Well, he's undermined the rule of law and the Constitution of the United States. Really? I mean, he stood in trial, lived by it. He appealed many of the decisions and has won. But he lived by the rule of law. He is supporting the rule of law at the border of the United States, the immigration. It's Joe Biden that didn't, that openly, knowingly allowed millions into this country contrary to the rule of law. It's Donald Trump that is sending ICE into cities that are ignoring the rule of law, sanctuary cities, saying, we're not going to follow the rule of law. We are not going to work with the federal government. And Donald Trump went to the point of, as soon as ICE officers were, if they were violating the rule of law, he was going to pull them back and they were going to be prosecuted, which they will be, all in following the rule of law. So no, it is not accurate to say it's not the Democrats that aren't following the rule. It's Donald Trump. No. And so using this online tool to shape and to undermine not just the rule of law, but this great American experiment and the social fabric of our country and the values on which this country was founded. To undermine that is what we're seeing. These May Day parades. Yeah, we've always had May Day parades. We've always had May Day protests. But it's now much more different, much more different. And we've set aside evil and wicked is assassination attempts on the President of the United States. You don't think that's impacted by online abuse? And the way that the Democratic Party has responded to it is disgraceful, shameful. No question. I say all of this, I beat up on the Democratic Party. That's because I love the Democratic Party. I want a strong liberal party in this country. I want to be able to go back to my liberal roots. And it makes my vitriol and my upset regarding the Liberal Party that much stronger than the Conservative Party. Yes, many of the policy disagreements I have land me in more of a conservative space. But the Republican Party has many problems and issues that are never going to change that, cause me to have difficulty in the Republican Party. However, it's a clear choice where we sit. Clear choice. And I'll do a show soon to my Jewish brethren, my friends, family, and all in the Jewish community, suggesting that you need to really assess whether you can support a Democratic Party like exists today, because to do so is against the group that you are. Whether we want to be or not, most of the people I know definitely do and embrace and love their Jewish beliefs, fundamental ideas, guidelines. Love being Jewish, everything about it, including the people, the culture, the religious aspects of it, the teachings, all of it. But it is a contradiction then to wrap yourself around the Democratic Party of today that is not listening. And so many have moved, not surprisingly. Many years after I did, but many have moved. And, you know, you can move back and forth, back and forth. There's nothing tying you one place or another. Let's talk about the Democratic Party for a minute as it relates to what might be important to the Jewish community, and that is the existence of the State of Israel. Until the State of Israel sets up an industrial base, a manufacturing industrial base, for military munitions in full to the level that they need, which as a small and as a relatively new nation in the world, only 80 years old, almost. It's not surprising that they have to buy munitions from other countries, not just the United States, but others. And that we have done many deals because the United States saves money by doing these. It's not a cost. It's ultimately a savings. And it adds to our GDP, and it adds to our employment roles. Because the vast majority of any sort of foreign aid is spent right back here in the United States. And the vast majority of military support, which is what it is, it's not economic or other programs to help support Israel. It is military support. And the vast majority of foreign military aid to the State of Israel is to provide for its defense, so it can continue to exist, so that a people halfway around the world in one of the most important regions anywhere in the world, as we're seeing right now, continues to exist. And it's not just any country, but it's one with the same fundamental values that the United States has. That's a big deal. And quite frankly, no other country squares and matches with the U.S. better than the State of Israel. And you see that as to who the true allies are of the United States. It's not the European countries. That ended a while ago. And it's only getting worse as they continue to be taken over by values that are contrary to ours, not consistent with ours. And now, a word from our sponsors.
Are you a business owner? Are you losing sleep because you feel your partner isn't carrying their weight, or because you no longer share the same vision or values? Are you no longer comfortable going into your own office? Are you walking on eggshells in the company you built? This is Chris Daniels, founding partner of Parker Daniels Keyboard LLC, a premier litigation law firm headquartered in downtown Minneapolis. For more than 30 years, I've specialized in business litigation and have helped hundreds of business owners resolve troubling business disputes. As a former certified public accountant, I get to the heart of the dispute, including financial issues. Business divorce can be messy, time-consuming, and costly, but doing nothing can cost you a lot more. Not just money, but emotionally, physically, and in your personal life. If you and your business partner no longer see eye to eye and you're eager to take a proactive approach and make a change, please call me at 612-355-4100 and schedule a consultation. Or visit our website at www.parkerdk.com.
So, Israel has been in a seven-front war, enemies all around, attacking it, launching missiles. Without the Iron Dome, for example, Israel may have been destroyed. I mean, it's a God miracle. With the number of missiles that have been shot into the country, and many more would have been had they been landing, You can rest assured they would have been. And this military aid to Israel has allowed it to continue to exist in many respects. Some argue that point. They would have anyway, various reasons. But there's a strong argument to suggest how important it is as two allies support one another. And the number of benefits, contrary to Tucker Carlson's idiocy, anti-Semitic-driven idiocy, to suggest that what does the U.S. get when it supports Israel like this? Well, it's not just the U.S. supporting Israel. It's Israel supporting the U.S., first off. Secondly, I've talked about the myriad of benefits the United States gets many times, and it's enormous. It can't be overestimated because it is enormous through the relationship it has with Israel related to intelligence, related to military operations, related to military innovation and invention, to support the veterans in this country. How many lives, American lives, have been saved because of Israel's innovation, because Israel trying out on the battlefield actual weaponry, military security, safety devices, equipment, and improving it in real time. Even the F-35s that were sold to Israel have been improved by Israel. The highest tech aircraft anywhere in the world have been improved by Israel, now to be used with the improved state by the United States. The number of medical innovations, forget about military, that Israel has brought to the world, has brought to the United States, saving lives all the way from congressmen saving their lives to, electeds, and I can give you some examples, products from Israel being used. Irrigation, feeding the world. The drip irrigation system started in the state of Israel and innovated there and improved there, has turned starvation around. Not entirely, but an enormous percentage. Anyway, I could go on and on, but that isn't the point. Pointing out the idiocy of Tucker Carlson, which can't be done enough because he is just despicable. But let's take a look at the Democratic Party. There were two resolutions a couple of weeks ago that were put on the floor of the United States Senate. There are 100 people in this country that get to vote in the United States Senate. They are 100 of the most important people in the country in terms of their power and authority to be able to vote. And they could vote for a resolution blocking all military aid to the state of Israel at a time when the very existence of the state of Israel stands in the balance. Unbelievable. So these votes, you got to figure what? You get one or two people voting against that? Or voting in favor of disapproval, in favor of disapproval of foreign military sales to Israel. Again, at a time of war, at a time when Israel is fighting a seven-front war. Their enemies are arrayed against them. Their kids are fighting. That's who's in the IDF, 18, 19, 20-year-olds. Kids from every community, small towns to big cities. They're all there fighting for their existence. And these senators, all from the Democratic Party, are voting against support for those kids, for their very existence. to keep a country that is fundamentally and foundationally set on the same values as the United States, to support the only democratic country in the entire Middle East. There were 36 votes. There were two resolutions, 36 votes that said, yeah, let's cut off Israel. Out of 100. 63 said no, and one did not vote. And the 36 votes that said, yeah, let's cut off Israel, all Democrats. All part of that Democratic Party, John F. Kennedy's party. You think John F. Kennedy would have done that? Not in a million years. Zoran Mandani would have if he were in the Senate. Oh, yeah. He's a Democrat. That's what the Democratic Party is. Oh, but let's wait one quick second. Amy Klobuchar. She can't say, yeah, you know, it's a fringe players in our party. It's just that are doing that. No, she voted against the state of Israel. And Tina Smith, of course, did. Both senators from the state of Minnesota. One-time supporters of the state of Israel. This is military defensive support for the state of Israel, for its very existence. And Amy Klobuchar, who's now running for governor in Minnesota, voted to cut it off. A resolution disapproving of a foreign military sale to the government of Israel of certain defense articles and services. Defensive articles and services to defend themselves. It is disgusting. It's despicable. And that's what Amy Klobuchar did. She is like the center of the party, isn't she? That's what we're led to believe. And she didn't just vote on that one. The other resolution got 40 votes to disapprove of the sale. And let me just check the roll here for a moment. Yeah, all Democrats. Well, and the two independents, both on both resolutions, voted with the Democrats, of course. They're arguably the most liberal of all. Angus King, and where is our good friend? There he is, Bernie Sanders. Those are the two independents. They voted with the 38 other Democrats, making a total of 40. 40 out of 100. Voting to slit Israel's throat. People don't know that. I mean, that's where the Democratic Party is. And we've got a huge number a huge number in the United States Senate. You're going to cut off the Iron Dome, let the missiles drop on civilian communities, and hit targets in the thousands? It wouldn't be reserved attacks against military targets like Israel did. Israel could have leveled Tehran. They could have still today. They certainly could have leveled Gaza more than they even already did. They could level Beirut, which is the hideout for Hezbollah and the central command of Hezbollah. Hezbollah allowed by the UN, allowed by the European countries, allowed by the United States to arm themselves to the teeth with over 100,000 rockets aimed at Israel. After Israel agreed to stop its attack in 2006 when they were initially attacked by Hezbollah in Lebanon, when they agreed to stop their offensive into Lebanon to destroy Hezbollah, they could have done it then. The world community said, no, stop. The United States put immense pressure on Israel to stop, promising that Hezbollah would never be allowed to rearm. The Jewish people should not believe in world promises anymore. The world that failed the Jewish people during World War II. And it was an American community, by the way, certainly on the right, the Republicans, who did not want to get into a war like World War II. Isolationists. And we have the same feeble, despotic groups in the United States holding back what needs to be done today. This is a war of civilizations. There's no question about it. Radical Islamic ideology, like Nazism, needs to be minimized to the point of unrecognizable. So small that it has no impact. Can it be destroyed altogether? Humanity has ways of bringing back such evil. But it can be neutered to the point of nothingness. And it'll take a long, long time, but it needs to start by removing regimes like in the Islamic Republic of Iran. So that was the vote in the United States Senate a couple of weeks ago, and I just did not want anyone to forget about it. Let me see. One other thing I want to cover, and we'll do on another show. We will do a topic, a show on government failure. Next time on the Andrew Parker Show, we will bring the conversation home to Minnesota and examine the political transformation of Minneapolis, the rise of the Democratic Socialists of America, and the leaders and policies that continue to reshape the city's future. We'll see you then. For more Smart Plain Talk, go to theandrewparkershow.com. Learn about all of your listening and viewing options. And remember, all the great things are simple, and many can be expressed in a single word: freedom, justice, honor, duty, mercy, hope. This episode of The Andrew Parker Show is sponsored by Parker Daniels Keyboard. Mark Twain once quipped, "A lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is still putting on its shoes. When you are lied about and it spreads, the resulting mayhem and destruction can be, and often is, disastrous." Hi, this is Andrew Parker, co-founder of the Parker Daniels Keyboard Law Firm. I recently handled a high-profile defamation lawsuit on behalf of a luxury home real estate agent whose business was decimated by falsehoods spread about him. After nearly 2 years of litigation and 2 weeks of trial, the jury came back with a verdict of more than $2 million for our client. Parker Daniels Keyboard. We litigate cases, we try cases, and we win cases. With a record of excellence in achieving extraordinary results, Parker Daniels Keyboard lawyers have consistently won huge verdicts for its clients in the areas of defamation, civil rights violations, regulatory battles, and intellectual property theft. For wise counsel and winning results, contact us at Parker Daniels Keyboard. premier law firm in downtown Minneapolis.